Hey guys, how's it going? No, you did not read the title wrong. No, you did not read the thumbnail wrong. Today's video is going to be talking about how Christianity doesn't make much sense unless you think about it right. Right? There's a way to think about Christianity that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the thing is, I think that way of thinking about it is the way that's intuitive for most people. At least for Americans. At least the way I was initially brought up to think about religion, or the way I see a lot of people thinking about the Christian faith. If you look at the Bible, if you look at the gospel, like if I just randomly took, say, Matthew or Mark or any of the four gospels and just read that one gospel, especially John, this is what I would hear. About 2,000 years ago, there was a guy, some random Joe from nowhere, Middle East, literally like a tiny town that most people was inconsequential. It was like a hick village in the middle of nowhere. And some random Joe comes about. So random Joe, random small hick town, a member of a small and often conquered and marginalized people, comes along, says, "Here, my select people, go out and preach my word, and I'm going to create chaos and destruction. I'm going to split households apart. But don't worry, God loves you." And then at the end of it all, he's murdered by his own people. And then when he comes back, he says, "It's all right. It's cool." We can make a bit more sense of this if we broaden to the whole Bible message, but it still doesn't make a lot of sense. The whole Bible, we're saying from beginning to end, we see the creation of the world, creation of reality by God, and he says it's all good, it's great. And then humans come along and they're quickly deceived by the serpent and screw it up for everybody. They get kicked out of paradise. And then one of their ancestors eventually has a lot of kids who try to kill their youngest brother because dad likes him more. Then, psych, he's not dead. Actually, they're going to be a prized people. They're going to be like honored guests in Egypt. Psych, years later, they're marginalized. And they're turned to slaves. And then they're set free and they get to their own promised land that God gave them. And psych, they're marginalized again. Like, the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, are almost defined by the fact that they are constantly being conquered by everyone. Yeah, there's a few wars that they win in there. But the majority of it, most of the time, they're just being conquered by, the Babylonians, the Romans, and I shouldn't have started listing them because I'm not a historian, but they were, the Egyptians, I mentioned them to start with, but they were marginalized by everyone. They were conquered by everyone. And then we get to the Gospels, and some Joe Schmo comes along that we talked about before from nowhere, Nazareth, and stirs up a big scene and totally starts saying no, the way you guys think about our religion that we've had for thousands of years, you're totally wrong. Oh, and don't forget about the Gentiles, because they're actually really important. And then they murder him, like we said before, and all of his remaining apostles and disciples keep spreading their word, And all but one of them are murdered in gruesome ways as well. And at some point, the Gentiles become the primary people, not the Hebrews, not the Jews, but everybody else. And like the Jews are there, but like everybody else is in court. Like Christianity is a majorly Gentile religion, not Jewish religion. Like it's mostly populated by Gentiles, who back in that day wouldn't have been considered under the law and would have been kind of pushed to the side and not under God. Like, it doesn't make sense. This is a really crazy story. And yeah, we can, if I summarize the story less, if I get into more detail, like the particular events start to make sense on their own. And they start to lead into a bit more of a coherent story, but it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't lead you very easily to what modern Christianity looks like. So then how come the past 2,000 years have looked the way they have? How come, since the death of Jesus, Christianity has become the fastest growing religion in history? Now, that figure might not be perfectly accurate. That's not my field of study. But from what I understand, it's pretty close to accurate, at least. So if this whole story makes such little sense, why did that happen? I don't think just reading the Bible is a great basis to go off of that to lead us to what Christianity looks like today, especially Catholicism. And I especially don't think it very easily lends itself to all these like hyper intellectual arguments that we face and we think about and talk about, especially between denominations. So how do we get there? How come this religion is so strong and so fast-growing, so attractive, if it makes so little sense? If the Bible itself, on its own, makes so little sense? The first thing to start with is Jesus in the Bible does not come and present a rationality to people. That's not what he does. That's not how he starts his church. He may use rational arguments at times, especially when facing the Pharisees and arguing with them. He might have bits of rationality. And I do think that we can apply our rationality to the things Jesus said and what he taught us. But what he taught us is not in and of itself a rational argument. It's not an intellectual argument. It's a relational argument. Jesus isn't trying to make this argument about like A, B, C, D, therefore E. I had to think of the next letter on the list, right? Like he doesn't reason from A to E, or from A to D, or even from A to B hardly. When his apostles ask him, teach us how to pray, the first thing he says is, say, Our Father. He presents a relationship between the person praying and the one we're praying to. And that's a filial relationship. He says, Our Father. And why would it make sense that us murdering him, that him dying, is a good thing and makes God suddenly say, yeah, all right, we're cool? Right? Why does us killing him do that? Well, obviously it's not us killing him that does that. Right? It's not that God's smiling on the murder. It's because humans, at the very beginning of the story, broke our trust with God. We broke down our relationship. So when Jesus comes along, he says, hey, I'm going to come along and I'm going to repair that relationship. And he does. And so the argument he presents to his disciples and to us is not an intellectual argument from A to B to C. It's a relational argument. It's mending that relationship that we ought to have with the Father and with himself. And we can apply intellectual arguments to it all day long. I mean, and that happens. Like, just look at, like, heck, most of my videos, or a lot of my videos, I bring up, like, rational arguments. When I had the whiteboard, I would write down, at times, my line of reason, my argumentation. One of my first videos that I used the whiteboard in, I literally wrote in logical notation my argument. So you can use an intellectual argument. You can come from an intellectual point, but that's not what Jesus himself came to do. And that's why if we look at the Bible alone, in its own context, we don't get a rational argument. It doesn't make sense. It seems crazy. And if you just look at it flat out, simply as the events that are laid out happened, it sounds crazy. A man came along, was a disruptive influence, and they killed him for it, and God said okay, and like that turned into a world religion. Like, that is crazy. Because that is not the point. That is not what Jesus is looking for from us, or what he was looking to do. What he was looking to do is to have a relationship. And that relationship is based on, at one point, him saying, like, look what I'm willing to do for you. Literally giving up. I had this conversation with somebody at work earlier today. He brought up his girlfriend and was saying, I love her, but like, I wouldn't die for her. Like, I value my life more. And they said, well, no, maybe I would die for her. And what I said was, doesn't that mean that you value her life over yours? If you're literally giving up your life, doesn't that mean you value her life over yours? So if Jesus is coming along and dying, he's literally saying to us, this is what I'm willing to do in order to have that relationship with you, in order to come together and be with you. Then he's valuing us over his own life. He's valuing you. That is what Jesus is really coming to say. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Yes, I uploaded this video on a Wednesday, not my typical Thursday. And that is because I am looking to upload also this upcoming Saturday. That's right, I'm looking to upload twice a week. So keep your eyes open for that next video. I am planning on getting it out on Saturday. I'm sorry if I don't manage to, but I am doing what I can to get that video out on Saturday. If you have any ideas that you want me to make that video on, perhaps? If you have any comments on this video, even, or thoughts, just throw them in the comments box below. I try to respond to every comment, and might even make a video on your comment if I decide to. If you like the video, give it a like. It really helps the algorithm know that you want to see more of this stuff, and it really helps my video get promoted more. And if you want to see more of my videos in your feed, hit the subscribe button. And that way I will show up in your subscription feed every time I upload. Thank you guys again so much for watching the video. God bless.